Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Repco Home Finance Limited Q4 FY21 earnings conference call hosted by ICICI Securities Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Kunal Shah from ICICI Securities Limited. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Shah.
Thank you, Nirav, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Kunal Shah from ICICI Securities. Today we have with us Mr. Yashpal Gupta, Managing Director and CEO, and the senior management team of Repco Home Finance to discuss their Q4 FY21 and full year FY21 earnings. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the earnings call for Q4 of 2021 to all of you. Hope these are different times. We know we are just faced the corona second wave, and third wave is also we would like to return in 2 months' time. So we hope that all of you are safe and remain healthy. Coming to numbers, our board on last Saturday, that is 26 June, they approved the results for Q4 of 2021 and for the whole year of 2021. They also approved a dividend of last year, the 3 months last year, that is 2.5 rupees per share, 28%. It is subject to approval as you know by the shareholder. Now I'll come to a few important highlights. As you know, the entire year last year was not good. Q1, Q2 especially were bad. Q3, Q4 improved, and Q4 it could improve our disbursement as compared to last year by about 16%. But the overall disbursement was low because Q1, Q2 was almost a washout, and banks were very aggressive in taking over. As you know, the industrial growth was also not there, so they were doing retail credit growth. And as you know, it is a very attractive segment to all of them. And as a result, what repayment rate, annual repayment and prepayment, both are about 90% they were. So as a result, while we could disburse 21% of the balance, closing balance outstanding, but we could grow our book only by 2%. 90% went into prepayment and payment, of which normal payment is only about 8%, 11% was prepayment. But there were few good things to notice in our result, because especially we focus on recovery from old NPA accounts. And as a result, we could bring down the NPA from sequentially, if you see, December to March, from 4.33 to 3.68%. If you see March to March, from about 4.21 last month to 3.68% this month. Plus we made a example, we tweaked our model for retail provision. As a result, our retail provision was higher by 20 crores, and we made extra provision of 10 crores. Still, as compared to last year Q4, this year we could increase profit by 32%. Overall profit also increased, though it was almost set by 3%. Now, if you look at NIM was 4.8%, you look at because we realized we could not compete on volume, we decided to reduce the NPA and also focus on improving the margins, NIM, spread, ROA, and to reduce wherever cost we could reduce. Plus other income we earned, not huge income, but minor income by the insurance selling. That is what we did. Now here I will just tell you what we figured for Q4 and entire year, then you can ask the question. The total income for the year was 1392 crores. That is 3% higher than last year. The spread was 3.4%, margin was 4.7%. That is for the year. But you look at Q4, margin was 4.8%. Our cost of funds has also come down from 8.33% for the March to 7.11% for the March of this year. Our PAT is 287 crores despite higher provision as compared to 280 crores last year. And the book remaining flat. Margins have gone up. Our ROE is 2.4%. Our ROE has come down slightly from 17 to 16%, but that is because we thought that in this time end of difficulty, we should maintain lower debt equity ratio than normal. So debt equity ratio, although you would have seen, has come down. Then we have lot of liquidity, both in open-end liquidity in the form of sanction loans, not at all, and on-balance liquidity in the form of FDs and cash and bank balance. Now, over to you for any questions.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants, you may press star and one to ask the question. The first question is from the line of Abhijit Tibrewal from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for taking my questions.
Abhijit, sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is coming muffled. Can I request you to speak through the handset?
Yeah, just give me 1 minute. Okay now?
Yes.
Yeah. Professor, thank you for taking my questions. My first question is around your asset quality. While it's actually heartening to see us reporting an improvement in asset quality for the last 7 quarters, our headline GNPA numbers used to be sticky in that range of 4 to 4.3%. So it's actually very heartening to see it decline to 3.7% in the last quarter. But what I am trying to understand here is, A, what is it that actually led to this decline? In other words, we have not really taken any write-offs during the quarter. So are these actual resolutions that you saw in your GNPAs, or these are just upgrades to stage 2? That's one. The other thing is, while these numbers might look good as on March, I think, because we are also reporting at the fag end of the current quarter, I think it's also important for us to understand what is the stress that you are seeing now as a fallout of the second COVID wave, and potentially what is the kind of restructuring that we might expect in the current quarter. That's my first question.
So, let me answer one by one. First, your question about reduction in NPA. So actually, I've been telling for many conferences now that while our credit cost in terms of provision is higher, but because we are into tangible asset business, we give loan, either housing loan and LAP loan, only against tangible assets. So the credit loss, that is loss of principal, in last 20 years has been negligible. Actually, we've done only about 10 to 15 crores of waiver. So it is just that we decided to waive higher penalties and also made the aggressive recovery effort. We made a special liquidity team. We identified certain branches, about 40 of them, who had higher NPAs. And we sent teams from different locations who were there for 15 days, and after 1 month again they went for 15 days. We proactively made the effort to recover. So it is actual recovery. While some of them may be upgraded also, but upgrade also is a good thing. It means they are paying regularly. We don't mind them paying regularly, they are upgraded. Now, so actually I must say there is no manipulation. Their actual recovery will upgrade. But upgrade also happens through recoveries only. So actually they are recovered. Now coming to the second part of the question of Q1 of the 21-22. I'll answer that, but I would like to remind all of you that this is a call for Q4 of 2021. So as you know, future is always uncertain. Our Q1 was very bad, especially our customers are such that they are mostly non-salary customers and we are not a bank. So they have to pay through a bank, and generally, if property sale or need happens, here I'm concerned in business, you have to meet, you have to visit the property, you have to do valuation, then you have to register as SRO. So many things are there which has to win, which cannot be done, especially non-salary sectors, without the personal touch. And as you know, April, May was very bad. June was slightly improved, but Tamil Nadu lockdown started in last week of May, and we are recently present in Tamil Nadu. Still, lockdown remains, partial lockdown in many parts. So I must admit that Q1 is not so good as compared to the Q4. How much it is, still 2 days left, so probably it will not be fair on my part to tell as to how much we expect to report. But yes, trade business will not be as high as Q4. But here I must tell one thing, that on the book side, fortunately, because of the pandemic effect, the prepayment rates have also come down. So while there may be some fall in the book side, but not a major fall will there. Now coming to NPS, because we could hear only 15 days, we are making effort even now as I speak to you. People are on the field, meeting the customers and collecting the money. So we expect it, but yes, some type of, because last time RBI allowed moratorium, so restriction was not required. This time some sort of restriction may be required, but it is difficult to estimate how much you have is given or how much you collect.
Sure, sir. That is useful. The other question that I had is, in your opening remarks itself, you kind of admitted that we understand that we cannot be competing on volumes. So what is it, internally, what is it that we are working with, in terms of disbursements, in terms of the growth targets, what is it that we are working on internally? And another thing that we keep hearing on and off, sir, is that you are investing significantly in technology and digitization. So if you can just give us some color around what is it that we are doing there. Are we working in all of sourcing, underwriting and collections, or is it typically restricted only to sourcing or only to, let's say, collections?
No, actually it is, let me answer your second question first. We have already appointed PA Infotech for that, and also KPMG as our advisor, and it is a 360 degree, in the sense that we are revamping our hardware or software. The supporting software data is SQL, but we are taking Oracle. Then we have entire LMS system, loan management system, that from lead generation to disbursement, and previous system for monitoring and doing all sorts of accounting, and plus HRMS, the audit inspection, all that are going to be there, and we are hoping that they will be implemented by December. We are already starting implementation. The cost will be about 40 to 50 crores. Okay. So we are completely revamping our system. And after that, it will be for the recovery, for the lead taking, for the section, for the disbursement, for the GST, everything will be automated. Okay. Now, what first question you asked about targets. Now, when I told you that we are admitted we cannot compete on the volume gains, there it is a constraint that has kept to mind. Constraint as of demand going down, constraint as of banks not finding enough lenders enough borrowers in the corporate segment and restricting to housing owner segment and all that. But I am sure that will not remain so. Maybe next year this thing will improve. And when we give target over budget, because we want to get the best out of them. Even in this market, even though things are bad, but we are working with the target of 3,000 crore, because if you give high target, maybe you will end up scoring higher. So targets are always aggressive, and we always try to achieve that. But here I am telling as a need to investors that what is possible, what is not possible. But you be rest assured, if the things improve, we will be first one to get benefit out of that. And here, for the June month, we have not done any For the March month also, for that also, for previous month, December, we haven't done any manipulation. They can tell very openly that other agencies are doing that.
Sure, sir. That is useful. I will come back in the question queue. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Mr. Viraj Mehta from Equirus Portfolio Management Service. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Sir, my first question is that our capital adequacy is already 29%.
Yes.
If our growth will continue to remain low, then are there any plans of increasing the dividend or diversifying into some other form of lending? Because if you keep increasing the capital adequacy, it will keep dragging down the ROE.
Yes. Any other question?
So this is the first question, sir. I have one more. If you can answer this first.
Okay. See, you are right, our capital is very higher at 28.5. But you also must be aware that as per RBI circular also, there is regulatory arbitrage that HFC keeps. In the sense that we only the capital adequacy of credit risk. There is no capital adequacy of market risk and there is no capital adequacy of operating risk. That may also come in future. And already CR has been extended by NHB when they were raised to 15%. So it is higher, you are right, but it gives some cushion because we cannot operate only on 15%. We need to have some cushion. And the second, coming to the growth side, the growth has been muted in last 2-3 years. But you should not look at only 2-3 years. We should always look at 10 years. If we look at 10 years, we have seen the growth of 25-26% also. And there is no reason to believe. In fact, I believe, I said to all my colleagues, all my friends that according to me, the housing sector will be the turnaround engine for the growth of Indian economy. While right now situation is bad, but you cannot always remain so. The time may come and we don't see that very far away, that where we can again, we are getting prepared by ID infrastructure, I told you, by other changes that I told you last time. With this, we are ready to pounce upon and go the opportunity has come. And I believe that probably in 1 year or so, this opportunity will come. However, I must add a caveat that we don't know this mutation, what will happen, 2, 3, wave 3, wave 4, we do not know. But I am looking at a businessman. As a businessman, things improve. I expect that by July, the Tamil Nadu market will open, other markets will open, and we have the infrastructure to take benefit of that.
Sure. And sir, did I hear you right when you said that you have target of 700 crore of 3,000 crore of disbursement this year?
Yeah, it is what we've done. If you see last year, we did 3,200 crores. And assuming, see, it was about 800 per quarter. Assuming that how we are coming up with turnover, I'll tell you that also. That if we assuming that everything goes smoothly from Q2, then we have 3 full quarters. 800 into 3 is 2,400. And plus we run down in Q1 also. Plus there will be some increase. So 3,000 is Q2, Q3, Q4, all 3 quarters remain unrotated. We don't see a problem in that.
And how much is the run rate for bank takeover? What was it in the first quarter and what was in the Q4 and what is the current run rate looking like?
The current run rate is very low. In fact, current run rate is only about 3 to 4%, but in Q4 it was 12% per annum.
12% of So
Per annum.
3%, so roughly around 360-400 crores. Is that correct?
It's 12% of the beginning loan amount. What I want to say is last year was, say, roughly 11,800 crores. Multiply by 12%, you will do 1,400 crores are taken over from our institution last year.
Right, but that is for the full year, right?
Full year, yes. But as you know, Q1 was again lower last year because in COVID situation, people also are reluctant to take over because they want to have a food stored in their house, take care of their families, they don't look at other things. So most of the takeovers happened in last 2 quarters only.
Right. And in terms of our cost of borrowing, it is now around 7.1%. Is there any more juice left that we can take out of this by tweaking our mix or anything else, in your view?
See, there is some juice left, but I'll tell you what is the juice left. One is the NHB has sanctioned 300 crores worth at 5.05%. That will reduce some of our costs. Plus, as you know, these CPs we are now raising for last almost 8 to 9 months. We can raise some CPs also. That will come at cheaper cost, but they are short-term funds. And ultimately, I think juice left is 0.2, 0.3%. But ultimately, it will depend on RBI whether because inflation is going up, the GSEC yield is going up, we do not know whether they will increase repo or not. If they keep the repo down, then we expect 7.1 should fall down to about 6.9 by the end of June. By the end of June, yes.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. I'll come back in the queue.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Rishikesh Oza from Robo Capital Limited. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Hi, sir. Just one question from my side. For the next 2 years, if you could share the loan book growth and the credit cost guidance, that would be great.
See, it all depends on, to large extent, on COVID impact. So I can give you a number, but I must add a caveat. It is assuming no disruption at all. COVID impact, economic disruption, all that. If I am telling you openly, if suppose everything is hunky-dory, we expect growth of 20 to 50% in the book side. But that is assuming everything is good. Everything means it is like, as you know, what of COVID last year, there was problem of ECFL, there was problem of ILFS, and the liquidity problem with NBFC because of that. So, assuming everything is good, it should go to 50%. We don't see problem at all. Now, sir, the credit cost is concerned, we are following now ECL model. Last 2 years, we have been making excess provision because of the pandemic situation. But if we go only, and we have also fine-tuned ECL model in conjunction with ENY, who is our advisor. But I don't assume everything fine. No surprise element is there. The credit cost will be about 40 to 50 crores per annum at max.
Credit cost 40 to 50 crores, did you say, sir?
Pardon?
Sir, can you repeat credit cost? I missed that.
Yes. 50 crores per annum.
I think the voice is breaking, sir.
40 to 50 crores per annum.
Oh, okay. That would be good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Sarvesh Gupta from Maximal Capital. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir, and thanks a lot for taking my question. Sir, before I ask my question, sir, any particular reason why there was so much of delay in publishing our results? Probably we will be the last BFSI company to report the results in this season.
There is no particular reason, but what happens, We have a associated company called Repco Microfinance. They are an unlisted company. And generally they take time because they are unlisted, so it doesn't matter when they publish. And they publish their results on the 23rd June. So we have to consolidate these results.
Okay. Anyway,
it's only that reason.
Okay. So, sir, last year you had given a guidance of around 4% gross NPAs, and it's heartening to see that you have stuck to that guidance. In fact, by 4Q exit, we got a lower figure than that. Now, assuming, of course, that the COVID ends with this wave and July starts normal, what should be our end FY22 sort of gross NPA number that should be reflecting on the book?
I can tell you with 100% confidence or 99% confidence that if there is no further disturbance, we should be below 3.25 as on March.
Below 3.25, is it?
Yes. But this is assuming no further disturbance.
Okay. And sir, the second question was pertaining to one of the previous participants' questions. So what you were saying that we are targeting, let's say, around 3,000 crores of disbursements. Now, of that, you also mentioned that around 12% is your annual runoff from BT. So that itself can be, let's say, around 1,400 crores. So that leaves us with around 1,600 odd crores of...
runoff is about 90%. 12% is pre-payment. Normally, if you look at mathematics, our March figure is roughly 12,000 crores. And assuming that we disburse for 3,000 crores, 2,000 will go in pre-payment and pre-payment other takeovers, and 1,000 will increase. We are looking at books as 13,000 as on March end.
Yeah. So I was just doing that maths that, if you have 3,000 crore disbursements, around the runoff at 3% quarterly run rate, or maybe even if you take 10% of, your loan book of 12,000 crore, so around 1,200 crore goes off. So you are left with around 1,800 crore. Plus you will also have some repayments, assuming that 7-8 years is your average tenure. You will have another 1,000 crore of repayments, sir?
Sorry, 14 years average tenure.
14 years. So you will have another 7% of the book going away, which is another 1,000 odd crores, sir, 800 odd crores. So net you will be getting 1,000 crore increase in the loan book on 12,000 crore base, which is 5-6%, 6%, 7% growth rate. Is that a right way of looking at things, sir?
Sorry, could not hear.
No, so on that 3,000 crore disbursement, sir, if we deduct around 1,300 crores of BT, then we are left with 1,700 crores, and then your repayments on your remaining loan book will be another 700-800 crores. So you are left with around 1,000 crore increase in the loan book on a base of 12,000 crore, which is a 8% sort of a growth rate, not like a 12 to 15% growth rate that you said is possible if the year is normal.
Correct. But it is all 3 quarters, not 4 quarters, number one. So don't take that into account. Second is, see, when the everything is normal, we will look at disbursement. If now everything was normal, we will look at 4,000 crores. Because 2 years back we did 3,200. So 10% is also take it is close to 4,000. So I look at 3,000, I look at 4,000, number one. Number two, if everything is okay in economy, probably commercial banks will also not be so aggressive that they are today. We have taken over the country's of housing loans only in last 3-4 years, not before that. They take over but not aggressively. Then our run rate or takeover rate, which is 12%, will fall down to about 70%. So that will give us 15-18% growth rate. So one, we can disburse 4,000 crores. Second, takeover by bank go down.
Sure. Sure. I can understand that. And sir, that on your core segment of customers, now obviously because of COVID, what we are seeing is, the higher segments are not impacted that much, so, even the higher segment of apartments, houses are seeming to have a lot of traction, but maybe the informal segment has got impacted much. So any data that you can share, on how the real estate is sort of progressing in the segments that you target, because we do have a data for the normal organized segment, but don't have so much of feel of, how much it is happening in the segments that you are focusing and in the estates that you are mostly targeting.
As you rightly said, the upper end is doing better. They don't have much problem. But at lower end, especially when the customer has to pay cash or he has to go to SRO physically, he wants to construct 60%. I think I told in one of the meetings that 60% of our loans are self-construction loans. They are not a ready-made apartment. So construction, of course, from where we get the manpower to construct. So that segment has been severely affected in last months, especially in southern states and the Gujarat and Maharashtra state, where major business come from. The upper and who buy apartments are not affected that much. That is the problem. But we hope that situation will improve and we will not have to face that.
Okay. And the share of wallet moving towards real estate in the customer segments that you are targeting, is that sort of helping the growth in that market in a way, or is it not?
As of now, to be frank, we don't collect the data, but based on informal briefing that we get, apparently real estate is always the last choice. So they are affected by the COVID, then they are deferring the construction. So actually the share of the wallet moving towards that segment is reducing, not increasing.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, and all the best for the coming quarters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Ms. Vibha Batra from Fair Connect. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. My question is actually on, pricing of credit risk. The kind of NPAs that you have, obviously I'm not comparing you to the mainstream banks, but to an HFC which is North-based and also listed. So if I compare your NPAs, they are like 3 times, and your lending yields are at least 3 to 4% lower. So do you think that there is a disconnect in our strategy, that we are not pricing our credit risk appropriately? It's also reflected in your ECL. If you see stage 3 assets, it's based on a very scientific calculation. The cover that your auditors also would have gone through and recommended is 40%, whereas the other HFC it's only 28%. So, technically speaking, the segment that you are catering to, you could price possibly 2.5-3% higher, and also better manage the credit cost to give better returns. I'm not able to place this return, RAROC, risk-adjusted returns, and also the NPAs in LAP are rather high. And do you do actually segment-wise profitability to see if you are making any money in LAP, in self-employed home loans where NPAs again seem high? So if you can throw some color on that.
Yeah. See, one is that I do not agree with you that we do not charge adequate ROI to the customers. So you are.
Hello?
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay connected while we rejoin the management back to the call. Participants, please stay connected while we rejoin the management back to the call. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We have line for the management reconnected to the call. Sir, you may go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So what I'm saying is that the ROI that we charge from our customers, as you might know that they are all retail customers. Those charge 18%, 20% are turning from the business, and we know what happened there. Of course, I know that.
No, I'm not comparing you to the builder loans. I'm comparing you to the retail only.
Okay, that's retail only.
Yeah.
If you look at retail loans, there are some who are turning 14-15%, but then they are giving loans to very low class of like those who are Hardiwalas or Kavalas. We are not giving well, we are giving to non-salary class, but generally they are middle segment who can easily pay 10%, 11%. So why they always say 0.5% difference, 1% difference, but same customer, at least in our geography where we operate. We are not talking of we do not operate. We are talking of the geography that we operate. What we do is that we have identified about 8 risk parameters. They are whether they are salaried or not salaried, the amount of loan, the CIBIL score, the internal rating, whether the loan type or so many other parts, all that is taken into account when we work out a minimum lending ratio for borrowing. Based on that we charge. So 3 point, if you ask anybody, there may be some players who are earning higher than us, but if you look at the name of 4.8, I don't think we need to have higher name than that, especially those who are listed players.
No, actually, if you are doing such better screening and lending to better segment, then your NPAs should be actually much lower. So I'm comparing you to Aavas, which is completely retail. They get better yields and their NPAs are possibly maybe 20-25% of yours.
See, as I told you, I don't want to compare with anybody, but our NPAs, as I told you, our NPAs are not those NPAs which become NPA forever. In the sense, they are recovered because they are backed by assets. And if you look at ROA at 2.4%, ours I don't want to compare because obviously when you are skin in the game, when the employees have skin in the game, you ask them to go home. We have some limitations which we have to work with. So there are all kinds of liabilities. There is Virat Kohli, there is Ajinkya Rahane also, isn't it? So there are all kinds of players. So
okay, so are you making money in all your segments? Say in if you were to compare your self-employed home loans on risk-adjusted basis, what kind of ROEs are you generating there, and also in say LAP?
In our case, the source of borrowing is common. So our cost of funds, whether we give LAP loan or whether we give housing loan, remains at 7.1.
Okay.
Overall, that's why we look at we have only 2 products. Personal housing loan and mortgage loan. Then there are various like flood loan and the purchase loan or construction of houses and all that. But they are all subvariant. If you look at overall, if our cost of funds is 7.1 or MLR to 8.75, that takes into account all our other costs, and then on that we charge some margin on that. So obviously we are making profit from all these loan accounts, except those who become NPA, but they have to recover later on.
Thank you, and sorry to interrupt you, Vibha. I'll request you to come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. The next question is from the line of Mr. Abhijit Tibrewal from Motilal Oswal Financial Service. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me a follow-up question. Mr. Gupta, my question was around, for long we've been saying that a large part of our stage 3 assets are because of some of the legacy NPAs that we have. What I'm trying to understand here is, the resolutions that you are seeing now, how aged are they? Are they 2-3 years old? Because I recall at the beginning of this financial year, let's say something which was 2 or 3 year old, I remember was in the ballpark of about 150 crores out of that NPA pool of about 500 crores. So, I mean, what I'm trying to understand here is how long is it going to take to resolve some of these legacy NPAs which have led to our headline GS3, gross stage 3, remaining sticky? And are they typically in some of the high ticket LAP that we have done in the past? If you can just give some color around product or maybe geography where you have seen where you have these legacy NPAs, and what's the thought process around these getting resolved in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months?
Okay. So when I told you that there were many of the legacy NPAs, they were legacy NPAs. But what has happened, as you are aware, in last couple of years is the impact of COVID, and especially our segment. People do not have money to eat. How they will pay their EMI? That is, we are catering that segment. So, as a result, many of the NPAs which are on borderline, in them they have not default. Like in June, we will find many of them could not pay because we could not contact them. Then they had no money to pay. So, suddenly it will happen. But good thing for us is the NPAs are recoverable because they are backwise always recovery. In fact, in March of this year, we recovered a lot of NPAs because of that many of them were 5 to 10 years old. So it is not that we are not done, but now I would say there are a lot of borderline cases which have become NPAs or are becoming NPAs because of these COVID-related and other problems. Because mind you that COVID is one thing, but economy is in difficult situation for much before COVID. So it is also the economic growth rate and so many other things. That is why we are not very aggressive in lending. We are going to be aggressive in recovery. Last year when RBI announced the moratorium till August, nobody thought that we will over in March. But just say after August to March, and we did this thing only 0.3%. But it could reduce the NPA to this level.
Sure, sir. And the last question that I had was around the provisions that you have taken in the quarter. Arguably, I mean, your gross stage 3 assets have declined during the quarter. So I'm assuming you might have had some write-backs from the GNPA pool. If I look at your standard assets, which is stage 1 and stage 2, you have had no increase in the restructured pool. You had already taken provisions on your restructured pool in the last quarter itself. So there was no incremental restructuring provisions during the quarter, which is, I mean, if I can just conclude that, I mean, largely you have taken these provisions to increase the provisioning cover on your stage 1 and stage 2 assets. So will it be fair to say that some part of this 29 crores that you have taken during the quarter is also in anticipation of the kind of restructuring that you might see in the current quarter?
Yes, you are right.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Wish you the very best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Chandrasekhar Sridhar from Fidelity International. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Couple of questions.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you speak a little louder, please?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just wanted to know what percentage of your book has been repriced lower so far, and is something else going to happen again in the future in over the course of this year to sort of reduce the amount of balance transfers out? That's question number one. And the second question is that 10% of our cost of 10% of our borrowings come from Repco Bank, and it is actually our highest cost source of borrowing. And while from the other banks actually cost of funds have come down pretty substantially, from Repco Bank our actually cost of funds, cost of borrowing has actually come down not too much. So just your thoughts on why do we want to maintain even 10% of our borrowing from Repco Bank? Why can't we go down?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I'll answer both of your questions. One is about the how much a book size. So there are two directions possible in our book size. One is the what we do every month, MLR reduction or revision. It can be reduction, it can be increased. Like when cost a month go up, they go up for everyone, then MLR goes up, and cost a month go down, then MLR goes up. That we need to pass on to all the customers. All our customers what they require. Second is the spread direction. So in order to reduce the customers from being taken over, we do reduce the rate, but we cannot go beyond the limit. So I would say about 80% we could have reduced, but it still costs very high. And some cases we could have given an additional loan. Some cases we would have talked about the direction, but it still could have us. So direction, if you are asking, it would be around 5 to 10%. Second is about the bank you offer. So here, I would only say we are not a business in business for 2 years, 3 years. We are in business for 20 years. If you look at the bank, today they are the highest cost, but at one particular time, if you go back 2 years, 3 years back, they were probably the lowest rate. Plus, many of the places we use their performances, any collections that happen by cash because we cannot do beyond the limit that we deposit in their some account. And then the biggest advantage that we have is the bank is always there to help us if the bank helps us. Like when you are aware, then DHFL, then your LFS crisis happened, other banks were reluctant to give money to unbleached. If I only 2 years back, I was running for pillar to post. I met many banks. That time the bank said, okay, foreign report, no problem, case. So we have to see many things. Cost cannot be only criteria. But we have requested, they have been kind enough to reduce the rate from 8.1 to 7.9. And going forward, we'll see. So I think if we look at banks, also the cost, that's why we should take only one NHB who's giving 4.05. Some banks are taking 8.5 also. So we look at multiple things.
Understood. Just then another one, can you just help us with what percentage of the LAP book is above rupees 1 crore at this point?
What percentage of books above? I want to excavate,
Around 180 crores.
multi crores and percentage wise it will be hardly 2%.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Mr. Viraj Mehta from Equirus Portfolio Management Service. Please go ahead.
My question has been answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A reminder to all the participants, you may press star and 1 to ask the question. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. As there are no further questions, I will now hand the conference over to Mr. Kunal Shah for closing comments.
Sorry, we have one more question, Nirav, if you want to take that, yeah.
Sure. The next question is from the line of Mr. Sanket Chheda from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Sorry for if the question is repeated. So my question was, our margins are still at 4.8. If we see that the BT outs are strong in Q3, Q4, and so strong that despite growing disbursement by 16%, we reported a flat AUM. So don't we intend to maybe cut down on margins where we can have about 4% NIM which might give us about 2% ROA, but we would be able to post some growth. In last 4 years since FY18, I guess we have posted a double-digit growth in just 1 year. Other than that, we have been struggling to get some growth. So what is the strategy that you would like to adopt, or any new USP that you intend to implement to pursue growth in the coming time?
Okay. So, let me tell you that in last 4 years or 3 years, around 2018, well, our book size has gone by 33% from around 9,000 to 27,000, but at the same time, the profit has gone up by almost 60-70% from 80 crores to 287 crores. Now, that is one part. This for us to see whether we want to see top line or bottom line. But yes, your point is well taken. Wherever, which I told earlier, wherever possible, we do compromise on the rate. We do reduce the rate. But we don't want to, we know that we cannot, our cost of funds, I told you, is even now it's 7.11. As they give loan at 6.9, how can we compare with them? So we don't want to compare on the cost of them. That is very clear. We can reduce the cost if the customer comes, customer is willing to stick with us, that we do allocate to it. The overall number, but it does not mean that we always look at, for individual customers, you come on, you charge for 1.8%. No. In fact, many customers is just below the cost or just above the cost also. So look at type of customers. There are many salaried customers. Some doctors are there. Some engineers, we put them at 7.5, 7.75, which are only 0.25% higher rate than the cost of one. So it is like taking a portfolio mix across states, across customers, across geographies. It is very difficult to say that we decide 4.8 to be named. No. It is a result of the outcome. But we don't want to compete on the rate. I would rather give 20 lakhs to 5 customers at 9% rather than 1 customer, 1 crore at 7.2%.
Okay, sir. So my question was that our margins are still 4.8, and you rightly said that if banks are taking away loans at about 7.5, how can we compete? So I was just asking, the margins are still high. Are we optimizing that trade-off enough, wherein we are trying to keep what we can see?
No, wherever possible we are doing. I must say we are doing wherever possible.
Sure, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Rishikesh Oza from Robo Capital Limited. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. My question was regarding the network expansion. So how many branches are we looking to add in the next year?
For this year, not much, because we still do not know. Otherwise, we are adding about 10 to 15 branches every year. But this last year, because of COVID, and this year also we do not know what will happen. So this year we are not planning anything. Maybe some center we can convert into branches, but not new branches we are not looking at this year.
Okay. And also I had a small query. So Repco Bank as a candidate for universal license, so is there any impact on us? Any kind of? Just wanted to know about this.
It is too early. They apply to RBI will decide, and if they become, then what action they'll take. We will not discuss this with them.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mr. Vikram Subramaniam from Spark Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hi, sir. Thanks for taking my question and congrats on a good set of numbers. I'm sorry I got cut off a bit in the middle. Did you give a guide?
Guide? Sorry, I could not hear.
So the line for the participant dropped.
Can you tell again?
So the line for the participant dropped, sir. Due to time constraint, that was the last question. I will now hand the conference over to Mr. Kunal Shah for closing comments.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gupta, for such an extensive reply to all the questions, and all the best for the future quarter. And thanks all the participants for participating on the call. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of ICICI Securities Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.